Hello, everyone. This week's topic is animal testing in the makeup industry, what companies are animal friendly, and like the morality between like the tests. This is week two. So basic info before we like get into it. The question is, what is cruelty free? That's like the main topic. For most brands, cruelty free means that products were like not tested on animals in the company's facility. So that means they test in order, like they actually do test in order to make sure there is no adverse reaction to the formula, such as like a shearing foundation doesn't cause the applied area to get hives or break out. Brands used on animals to test because they can't get living examples of the reactions to their products without it unless they test on humans, which they're not going to do. So, like, the phrase came about in the 1950s due to animal rights movement. Santa Clara University published an article that said 20 million animals are being experimented on and killed per year, including 10% of animal tested that are not given painkillers and have suffered like to their final death, which is a really grim thought to think of, but 20 million, which is a huge amount. But also another thing to like really think about is that not all of the claimed cruelty-free like companies tell the truth, since many work with other companies as well who actually do test on animals, so they're able to like see those products being tested on animals, but also don't test physically in their facilities. So they get to be branded as cruelty-free, which is controversial in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like they also like what they do is they kind of like hire people in China to like test the animals for them so they can say they technically didn't test the animals, but like they kind of hire someone who did, so it technically is the same thing. But like basically what you do to like test animals, what they've done is they'll take like the foundation formula, for example, and they'll put it like on top of an animal's skin and see if that animal has an allergic reaction, as we said. And more examples of that are forcing like lower animals kind of that aren't as valued, like mice and rats and stuff, to inhale toxic fumes and see how they react to those. And then they force feed dogs pesticides, which I think is terrible because like how could you like walk up to animals and do this to them? You know, like I brought my dog Momo as like a little showcase. This is Momo. And I don't understand how people could like walk up to a face like this and be like, "Yep, we're testing on you." So like it's just so like inhumane and so cruel to me to think that people could do things to such innocent creatures that don't like have voices for themselves. And I think that's just kind of like taking advantage of like creatures, and it's just like it just goes against all of like the laws of nature in my opinion, and like why we're here. And it just like there's no point in it, just for our own benefit, you know, to be able to like put makeup on with like we just like should appreciate our beauty, but like it's just not worth it to me personally, which is why I tried my best to like get non animal testing brands. So like there's some examples of those brands, and we can go over those in a little while. And right now we're going to talk about um, alternate methods, like what you can do to like get the same results, but like not testing on animals.
Um, yeah, many companies use like raw material suppliers that indirectly use testing to ensure an ingredient is like safe, and that's still allowed to pass as animal cruelty, as I mentioned before. So ingredients that are now labeled as cruelty-free were probably tested on with animals in the past, but isn't currently being tested on. So that technically counts, which is astonishing to me. I guess like pass through knowledge that's just gonna like be the way it is. But yeah, other ways that you can test makeup that are not like actual animal cruelty would be like one, it could be researching previous scientific studies on what ingredients work, which still touch upon, okay, but were those ingredients tested on like animals, which they most likely were. But you could also use controlled human use, like through, paying people to get products tested on them, just like they kind of do with like allergic reaction tests. But then again, that requires a company to not only spend money, but then you have the, okay, but what if this severely hurts a person because you didn't do as much research? So it's like a kind of a difficult way to get around it. Um, my favorite way, you can also do cell cultures, and just like take living cells and be able to do that so you're not actually harming any living like thing, but you're also like using, that could be expensive because then you have to get the cells, you have to like use an inhibitor to like an incubator, sorry. You have to use an incubator to actually get these cells like prepared or for after it. And then you could also use human tissue, but that's like with the same thing as cell cultures. But like with new technology increase, you can also use computer modules, which I found very interesting and didn't know about before I did like research on this. So yeah, if people also volunteer, you could also do that same way, like controlled human use, but not necessarily paying them. So that's like a non-money spending way to actually get these.
Yeah. And it's like also like animals are just pretty, unfortunately, like disposable, as people say, like you can find a bunch of stray dogs on the street in a lot of places, and just like a lot of like shelter pets are put down, like so many shelter pets are put down. And it's just like, you can find them anywhere really. Like you can find rabbits in the wild, you catch them, and it's like, it's so unfortunate because like we were just talking about, it's not expensive to go pick up an animal off the street and say like I'm going to use you for testing. It's not anyone's like property. There's no penalties to it, and if it like benefits you for cheap, people will do it. But like I think it's just wrong, and I think especially with what Jess said about the new technology, that we can definitely start like evolving to find ways around it, because there are so many big brands that still use like cruelty, like non-cruelty free techniques. And although there are some that do like that have transitioned to completely cruelty free, as we know, there's like a good amount of really popular brands that don't. So example like Benefit, which I'm actually really upset about because I have my eyeliner pencil and my eyebrow pencil and my eyeliner that I use from Benefit, and they're like the only shades that fit me, but it's really really hard for me to use them knowing they've been tested on something like a dog, when I have like two dogs that I love so much, and like Clinique and Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, Maybelline, and NARS, MAC, all of those really big brands, they still test on animals. And whether it's either like going through China and a Chinese company or just doing it by themselves in their own laboratories, like they like what they do is they like I said earlier, they'll expose them to toxic fumes, they'll like inject it into their bodies, drip the chemical into their eyes, and then they give them like drugs and they force them to inhale all of the stuff that's going inside your makeup. And if they have like an issue with it, then obviously they like will switch it and then try again. But it's like it's not fair to make these animals suffer through like all of their life, be put in cages and like never see the light of day. And I think that's terrible. And I know there are a few brands that don't do that, but still it's like it's kind of sad to see how many ones do and how we support them like unintentionally. Like even if you don't know that they do, it's like good to bring light to the situation so you can like be aware of it before you buy things.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I was like seeing research and how many of these like companies that use these animal testing and actually like admit to using animal testing, which, is huge since so many companies already lie about it. But like companies like Maybelline, like I literally use like my eyeliner is also Maybelline, and a lot of my stuff is just in general like makeup wise. And I was going through my makeup for this video to see like how much of it was actually like these was actually having like animal testing within the company. And like my foundations from MAC, like everything that I use is like mostly like animal testing companies, which is interesting. But like there were a few that weren't, such as like Fenty Beauty, Rihanna Queen. Absolutely love her. Of course, there's no animal testing there. But there's also like CoverGirl, which I know my mother loves. So it's like there are some of those like brands out there that you can buy and are pretty famous because who doesn't know Fenty Beauty? And then just like e.l.f. products, I think most of my like mascaras and lipsticks are like e.l.f. And then there are others that I haven't heard of, like KVD Vegan Beauty. So that's also for people who don't want to use like any animal product in their makeup. But yeah, it was just like it was interesting because some of the like cruelty, like the animal cruelty brands, like Clinique, I use a Clinique like face toner. So it was like it's not even just makeup that you can escape from. Like they even test things outside of makeup that just you use in your everyday life. Um,
And like especially with skincare lines, because like rabbit eyes are really sensitive and they'll inject whatever's going into your skincare products into the rabbit's eyes, and that's why they say like sensitive skin stuff like on the packaging, because you know if it can go into a rabbit's eye and be okay, it'll go on your face and it'll be fine. Supposedly there are cases where they'll test on an animal and it'll be fine, and then it'll go to a human and then there's an issue. And sometimes like they even put out stuff that like gives the animal a problem, but they decide to put it out on the market anyway. And I think that's also like astronomical, because why make the animal suffer for like literally no reason at all if it's just going to go out and like cause people problems either way, you know, and it's just causing like extra pain and stress for everybody. And I feel like it's just kind of like unfair to like force the animals to go through things for our benefit, especially because so many people use skincare stuff and like toner. Like Jess said, I have a toner. I use Burt's Bees, and they didn't really come up because they're more of a, I think they're more of a skincare like line instead of a makeup brand, but they do come out with like lipsticks and stuff. They weren't listed in either of the big lists, so I've been like okay using it, but you know, you never really know, and it's just kind of like nerve-wracking to like know that like you're putting something on that's literally tortured an animal, you know, and it's just like impossible for me to think about.
yeah, I mean, I just looked it up, and Burt's Bees is cruelty free. Um,
Okay.
so that's good. But also just like most of my products probably aren't cruelty free, and I'm like just realizing it. But like thinking about how like these products that, they're not only using animal cruelty, but thinking about like, okay, these animals are going to be in cages. Like, are they even like fed well? You're thinking about if you have the heart to test these like makeup stuff on these animals and physically in these animals sometimes, then like I couldn't imagine how they're treated and like the other ways that they like act like with the animal. Thinking about like dogs, like I know that my dog, if I just took a needle and was like really close to their eye, my dogs would probably either growl at me, and they probably, like the people that actually are testing will most likely not like that and react really badly. So that's also a component to think about. Um, but yeah, I couldn't even imagine anything happening to my dog. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like a soft topic when it comes to that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I like might try to switch my stuff to um, more cruelty-free makeup brands, because that means I get a Fenty Beauty spree on the on the sake of being like humane. But yeah, I should probably switch them. It's just hard because I get a lot of my stuff from Ulta Beauty, and
Mhm.
like unless I search up the individual brands, like then there's there's nothing really I can tell from that. So
Yeah, that's fair. Because sometimes packaging is like very, very misleading because they'll say cruelty free and it's like, well, actually, there's cruelty but in China, you know?
yeah,
So that's like it's hard to know, and that's just kind of like a matter of doing your research, which is also kind of time consuming because people will go into a store and they'll be like, you know what, I like this color and it fits me and like I look good in it, so I'm just gonna buy it, and they don't really think much more about it. But you know, if you're a big animal person like me and Jess are, then like putting in the little extra time like really really helps
yeah.
just to
And if
like
you think
research.
about it, like some animal cruelty like makeup lines, they might not have stuff in your shade. They might not like fit your skin well, or they might make you break out because you would just your skin doesn't like that type of company, and or like it just doesn't, it makes your face cakey or stuff like that. So like everything has to be taken into consideration, which is really bad because some like brands like MAC definitely fit my face well and like my skin texture, but it's like they also test on animals. So I like, it sounds weird to compare it, but like at the same time, like why buy makeup if it's not going to suit your face? So it's like kind of a hard topic.
Mhm. I agree. Okay.
So we kind of are going to wrap up this topic because, you know, we covered everything, and hopefully you'll also give some more consideration to your guys's, you know, makeup products or face care products. And make sure to give your furry friends an extra little hug. But see you next time.
Bye.